What's up, everybody? Welcome to Geared Up. This is our weekly live stream where we talk about gear, lighting, techniques, anything photography related that you may have questions to, hopefully pertaining to lighting, because that's what we're talking about for the most part. And we answer your questions. So feel free to ask them. If you're watching this on ProPhoto.com, you're gonna see some stuff pop up around the edges, although not so much today because we're not talking about anything necessarily specific. So maybe I'll just leave this portion out of it. But you can ask questions there, but you can also ask questions on any of our social channels, and we will be answering those. So let's dive into what we're talking about today. Today is about how to pack and protect your gear when you're traveling with your stuff. I'll talk a little bit about cameras because I always obviously pack my camera to go with my lighting stuff, but I'm gonna talk about some things that I do that help me in my travel. I spent a bunch of years traveling for ProPhoto, taking a bunch of stuff with me, doing a lot of cool events, and I've honestly had minimal issues with anything being broken or stuff like that. And it's because I take certain precautions, and I want to make sure that you are taking those precautions as well. So let's dive right into it. First and foremost, when it comes to packing your stuff for travel, is you want to try to minimize how much play is in your bag. The biggest thing I tell people to do, especially when it comes to your lights, obviously there's a lot of glass involved with a flash, from the diffusion plate to the actual flash tube itself. And then depending on if you're traveling with a Pro Head or a D2, you also have that your modeling lamp inside of it, which is also a glass fixture. You want to pack your lights really, really tight. You don't want them to have any movement in them whatsoever. And you can do that a couple of different ways. I'm going to show you some stuff that I do. So if you kind of have your rig and you have your stuff set up the way that you, or you have your setup, you're happy with it, nothing's really going to change too terribly often. One of the best things you can do is go with something like this, a big Pelican case. Is it easier to see? Oh yeah, I can flip it open right here. So it's easier to go with like a big Pelican case or something like this where you can do, I'm gonna get my face out, get it from blocking my face, but you have like kind of these custom dividers in here. So this is Kate and my video case is what we travel with for all of our video gear. So we have slots for monitors and stuff like that. And the point of going with something like this is, again, you can keep all of the equipment that's inside of it in a specific place and all of that equipment really, really tight. So it doesn't move around. It's not bouncing around. It's really, really good for stuff like that. So again, if you have maybe you have a couple of lights and you have the lenses that you like and all of your accessories and stuff like that, that's a really, really good way of going, just because it's set up for your spots. You can kind of see where your stuff goes and all that good stuff. For a lot of the stuff that I've done in the past where, I'm changing up my bag, I'm changing up what I have, maybe something that I'm doing requires me to bring B1s, maybe something that I'm doing requires me to bring, A10s. I use this bag a lot. So this is because people always like to know what you have with stuff like that. And you can see I've beaten the crap out of this bag. This is the bag that I've traveled with the most. It's a Think Tank Project Manager 30. And what I've done inside my bag, I'm gonna flip this up for you to see, is I've just taken out all the dividers. So they're all kind of stuffed into the bag the way that they are right now. And what I use those dividers for, I don't know if you can kind of see back here a little bit. Over here a little bit. All right, perfect. Oh yeah, cool. So what you can see, what I normally do is I just take all this stuff out and I leave my bag blank. So I have like a lot of little things, like I have little foam pieces and stuff like that I can kind of jam down into the thing. But normally what I would start with is I would take like cases. So cases are really, really important. I would implore you to try to use the bags that things come in. So what I do a lot of the times is I'll take, light stands, knock them over. What I'll take is I'll take all of my lights, my B10s, B10 pluses, cameras or whatever else, and I'll put them in the bag again in a manner that keeps them from moving. So like the divider here is gonna hold that B10 in place right there. And then I can, you can jam like A10s and stuff like that in there, so stuff like that. So it's really, really tight. Close it up, zip it up, all that good stuff. And I'll start by keeping this bag in the bag. And the upside for that is, for the most part, it keeps its space the way that you want it to do. You can change the bag up the way that you want to, so it's really, really flexible. It's good for what I do. And so if you find yourself changing a lot of stuff in and out on the fly, it's really, really good. Again, the cases are your friends. So with like this OCF adapter, and the cool thing is you can pack in a way, if you just kind of look at your stuff, in which you can move things from here to there, but really, really easily. Like you can take your Connect Pro case, you can put it inside the Connect Pro case and close that up. So now you have two things in one. You're still in two protective cases, and then it slides into your bag. And same thing, you can take, you know, we'll talk about hard reflectors in a second too, but having like a multi-tool in your bag, you can kind of throw that down in the pocket. You can take your light stands, and this is kind of what's cool about this, is you can kind of tuck the light stand under the bag. So it gives you a lot of flex space in the way that you can move about packing your stuff. Then you're going to start getting into things like your hard reflectors. Like, what do you do about stuff like this? This is metal. If you put a lot of tension on it, it bends. So what I like to do, one, is I'll do things where, so let's take the snoot, for example. I'll take my OCF snoots and stuff like that, and I'll kind of just put them into the case just to give it some extra space here. And then I'll take a shirt or something or some kind of cloth and I'll put it inside here. That just makes it a little bit more rigid, so it's harder for things to kind of crush it. And then I'll put stuff in the bag that way. One, it gets me a couple of modifiers in one space, and that helps out a ton with that kind of stuff. So again, you just want to make sure that whatever you have in there, you're kind of padding it. I usually put it inside of its bag to keep it from getting scratched up. But the cases, again, cases are your friends with this stuff. When it comes to your cabling, chargers and stuff like that, again, cases are your friends. One, it's going to help out a bunch too if you wind up having to check your equipment, because the only casualties that I've ever really had with traveling with my stuff is I've had, I think I've lost a grid for something, and I lost an OCF 2x3. And after that, I've been pretty lucky. And I'm pretty sure the 2x3 and the grid were from my bag getting checked by TSA. Like whenever you open your bag up, you'll see, you know, the little tags inside of them that say, hey, you know, this bag was inspected. My guess is that they pulled the bag out, or they pulled the softbox out and they didn't put it back in. You could help with a lot of that stuff. You could kind of like tether them all together. Maybe put a tether inside your bag to keep all that stuff together for when you're traveling. It's not a bad idea. I try to keep all my stuff kind of in the netting and stuff like that now too. Just again, to keep, you know, from them plopping things out and that kind of stuff. So just try to keep in mind that you want to maintain keeping all your stuff together. So again, whether it is tethering your soft boxes or something like that together, but keeping things in bags, keeping it all together. That way there's not a lot of little bitty parts that can easily just kind of be put to the side while somebody's trying to check out what's going on with your bag.
What about lithium-ion batteries?
So lithium-ion batteries, thank you for the segue to the lithium-ion battery. So Kate's going to pop up this thing on the screen. But first and foremost, travel with your lithium-ion battery paperwork. So as you can see on the screen right here, if you go on profoto.com, there is go like to the B10 section or the A2 section, whatever flash you have, go to that section. And there's a little downloads portion at the top. Go to the downloads, and this battery information thing is something in there. And so this is something you can have with you. Keep it with your bag, and that way you can show, hey, these batteries are compliant for flight. It tells you kind of what you should and shouldn't do, and all that kind of good stuff. But let's talk about how I handle my batteries. So first and foremost, for my A series batteries is, okay, let's just talk about all batteries in general before I start talking specifics. I try to keep a battery installed on the flash. I've never had any issues with it. No one's ever pulled me to the side about it. It's not a spare battery, it's installed. So I haven't had any trouble with it whenever I put it under the plane. What I generally tend to do, and I guess I apparently chucked my gaff tape. But what I normally do is I take a little bit of gaff tape. Oh, no, I didn't. It's under my bag. So I'll take a little bit of gaff tape, and I will just tear off a piece. I'm not gonna waste a piece right now, but I'll tear off a little piece, and I will kind of just tape the battery to the flash head. That way, if something bumps it, the battery doesn't come loose, and it can't be, you know, tapping up against something. So I'll secure the battery to the flash head. I know that when we were shipping the B1s at one point, we had this big rubber band that was around them. That thing was kind of cool too. So just think of some way that you can keep the battery compressed to the light. That way you don't have to worry about it clicking off. For spares, you have these terminals on the bottom. Again, take some gaff tape or some electric tape and just cover the terminals. Electric tape I haven't had any issues with gaff tape, so I wouldn't tell you one's better than the other one. But just put some tape over the terminals. That way you're not accidentally, it's not bumping into any other metal, or the contacts aren't hitting each other and arcing. Generally, the thing that starts the fire is the contacts touching stuff. So you want to keep the contacts taped up. So same thing with all your stuff. Again, get bags to keep stuff in. I have a gigantic bag. Here, I'll just show you what I do with my batteries. So like I have a gigantic bag right here that I keep a lot of batteries inside of. So it's got a whole bunch of A1 batteries in there. I just charged them recently, so they're not taped, but I haven't been traveling with them in a while. But I tape up all my batteries whenever I'm on the road. I honestly don't take that many batteries with me whenever I'm doing something. That's just kind of storage right now. But tape up the ends and all that kind of cool stuff. I'm working on making little models of like plastic covers that I can use instead of having to run through all my tape all the time. So we'll get to that bridge eventually. And then, so again, keep your batteries installed when you can keep them installed. Tape your battery covers. Bring your spares with you just in case. So again, I've never personally had any issues with someone saying, hey, we pulled your bag off because you had some lithium-ion batteries in there. I've always tried to keep them together. I've always tried to keep it tight so that nothing's moving around, everything taped. Again, a space in my bag for everything, and everything pretty well partitioned off so it makes sense and you can see it. It's not like a big jumble of stuff. So taping those batteries, keeping them well organized. And then for things like the A series, what I'll normally do is I'll take an extra battery, one of my extra batteries, and I'll just go ahead and click it into the charger. That way it's installed. And then, you know, if you're feeling like it, you can put a little piece of tape down. I'll usually put mine face down and have something kind of compressing against it so it doesn't come out. Just depends on how you like to roll with that kind of stuff. So that's how I handle lithium-ion batteries. Decide how you feel comfortable in doing that. If it's one of those things where you want to bring your spares onto the airplane, do it. I try to, again, keep mine installed, keep mine spaced and stuff like that. I'm trying to think where I'm missing. So I keep my cameras with me and stuff like that too. A lot of time, depending on what I'm doing, I usually have my cameras and stuff on me on the plane itself. So that's usually always inside my backpack. But for lighting and stuff like that, I haven't had any issues with ruptured flash tubes. I take it back. I had one B1 flash tube rupture, and that was because I didn't actually pack it tight enough. And I had a feeling while I was traveling that something was bad was going to happen with it, and it did. So again, it's just keeping those lights really, really tight, really, really secure. And then just, you don't want a lot of stuff moving around in the bag. So again, if you're not packing a lot of light shaping tools or something like that, then one, use a bag that you can partition up a little bit. Maybe you need a smaller bag, or fill it with, you know, I keep all of these extra little things, all these little dividers and stuff like that come in the bag. And I use them just to kind of push into place and hold stuff in place. I know a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, you can just install them and have the slots. I hear you. But for me, I change my bag so much that ripping these things out and trying to decide the right way of doing this just doesn't work for me. So I use these as extra cushion, or again, like if I have like a hard reflector or something like that inside the bag, I'll usually take one of these and make like a hard case for the hard reflector and stuff like that. So it's nice to just be able to kind of take a bunch of these things and use them how I would like to use them. But that's how I travel with my stuff. And granted, it's not the perfect way, but I've had a lot of success in doing it in the.
As long as you keep it tight.
Yeah, as long as you keep it tight. Yeah, I've traveled nonstop. This bag again is probably 7 years old. It's got, you know, the foot's going crazy on it, but it's always kept my stuff safe.
Change the wheels out. You know?
No, my wheels are great. The actual wheels on this is really, really good. And the guys at Think Tank are really, really killer. They were like, just tell us where to ship you a bolt and we'll send you a new foot bolt. And I just always forget to do it. So it's not that big of a deal.
So that's Think Tank.
Think Tank is Project Manager. It's a Project Manager 30 is the one that I'm using there. Is anything on the chats or anything popped up? Cool. Let's see. So we talked about batteries. We talked about the things you need to make sure your lights are secure. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything else. It's not a terribly, that was a really weird way of saying terribly. It's not a really hard thing to do. It's just a couple of things you want to make sure that you're paying attention to. So again, keeping your lights tight, keeping your batteries managed correctly. So as far as, again, taping off and all that kind of good stuff. And that's how I go about traveling with my stuff. Any questions?
Facebook user, sorry, it doesn't say your name on here, but it says, "Hey Chris, thanks for doing this live. My understanding is that the B1 and the B1X batteries are too large a capacity to be in a checked.
They could be. So there is a rating for how much juice is inside of a battery that you can roll with. Again, on my B1s, I usually have always just installed it onto the battery and sent it and kept it partitioned. For me, I haven't had any issues. Knock on wood. Doesn't mean that I won't potentially have an issue in the future. But if it's, again, something that is showing against regulatory, the regulatory nature of the batteries, then bring it on the plane with you. Again, still tape the contacts, and then make sure that they're not, smacking into each other. Make sure they're, secure. At the end of the day, when it comes to the batteries and stuff like that, you just don't want them arcing and you don't want them getting damaged. That obviously, lithium is, or lithium-ion batteries are super reactive, especially if they get punctured. So again, keep them tight, keep them taped, and you should be good to go. Again, do what you feel comfortable doing. I haven't flown with a B1 in a while. I usually fly with my B10s now. So maybe that's another reason that I haven't been tapped on the shoulder and said, "Hey, you got some spare lithiums in there." So, any other questions?
No.
Cool. Thank you all so much. So again, keep everything tight, keep it organized for when you're checking your stuff. That's going to save you a ton. It's going to make sure that when someone pulls your stuff, they don't accidentally leave something behind and then you're out a softbox or something else like that, like me once. Keep everything tight, keep everything organized, tape off your batteries, bring your spares onto the plane with you just to, cover your rear, and you should be good to go. It's not overly complicated, but I think sometimes people are like, you're throwing stuff in there and you have to remember this has to be, I understand that it's in like a padded bag, but just because it has some padding in there doesn't mean that it's necessarily safe if it's kind of slapping around inside the bag, right? That's the easy way to rupture a flash tube. So pack it tight. If there's not enough room, add some lightweight stuff. Maybe you can even throw some clothing in there with it or something like that if it's the only bag you have. So you just, again, want to keep the lights tight, keep your batteries taken care of, and after that, it's pretty easy stuff. Other than that, pretty lightweight stuff. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a question personally. I would love to talk to you about how I travel with this stuff. Again, get your battery safety paper from the page of the light that you have. So if you have a B1, go to the B1 page at profoto.com. Same thing, B10, A2, A10, all that stuff. It's in the download section up at the top, and you should be able to easily print that out and keep that with you. Just throw it in your bag and have it ready to rock and roll. Other than that, easy stuff. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If I see you at Imaging this week coming up, say hi to me. If I don't and I miss you, super sorry, but we'll see you next week on Geared Up. Peace out, everybody.